disoriented because I'm not like used to this interface at all.
What is going on?
Take a moment, adjust to your surroundings.
Yes.
Hi, I'm Cami Kaos.
And I am Rick Turoczy, and we are mildly interesting people. And that's why we invite people who are far more interesting than us to chat with us on this podcast. Cami, who do we have today?
So I've been giving a lot of thought to how I want to introduce this guest, because I keep saying this is one of my dearest friends. It's just going to, like, people are going to stop believing me. But also, this is one of my dearest friends, and she is quite certainly one of the reasons that I made it through the pandemic with my sanity intact. But I think not enough people know about her is that she's absolutely obsessed with money, but not in a bad way.
Aren't we all?
I'm a greedy MFer.
Normally, if I were to say that someone was obsessed with money, I would mean it in a negative way. But in my child life and in my adult life, I've had so much stress around like understanding money and feeling empowered. And our guest today, Tracy Levesque, is into money, but not in a greedy way. She is also like incredibly motivated, giving back to her community, several communities. I just think she understands the importance of money and how to make it work for you better than anyone I personally know. And that's not all I want to talk about, but like, I just want to praise you for that, Tracy, and welcome you to the show.
Thank you. Hi. I've thought a lot about, because I started using TikTok, and that's where I figure I'm going to put all my financial literacy and financial independence content, highlighting my mom, who is really, my mom's a lot of things, good and bad, but like the good that I really got from her is coming from a growth mindset, and she's really good with money, and she's raised me not to be afraid of money, to make money work for you, to, it's like from an empowering standpoint, right? And so while putting this new content out there, I'm like, gosh, people are just going to think I'm a greedy jerk, like obsessed with money. But where I come from is like, there is a wealth gap in this country, and the folks in power want us to keep focused on buying. Am I allowed to curse on this?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Buying their shit.
Please do.
Instead of building wealth.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I come from an activist. I mean, that's a stretch, right? An activist.
No, it's not a stretch at all. I think that's, I'll say it if you don't. She's a financial activist.
Okay. Good.
I love
Thank you. So like, marginalized people need to build wealth. We need to build generational wealth to get anywhere in this world, because they want us to stay uninformed, uneducated around money, afraid of money. And while we keep buying shit, that makes us telegraph wealth, but not actually have real wealth. So that's why I do what I do. I want the wealth gap to shrink, and I want marginalized people to be in more powerful positions.
Well, and you did something which is really something that is super impressive from my perspective, that is critical to kind of generational wealth, which is you bought a building and became a landlord of people and things. Like, talk a little bit about that, because I mean, I remember in our parents' generation, like that was a very common thing to do. You would buy another house, or you'd rent it out, or you do those kind of things. But I think for our generation, that's been far more difficult. So I would just love to hear the story of how that happened, how you decided to do that, and what's come of it.
Sure. So I love Philadelphia. I live in Philadelphia. I've lived in Philadelphia since 1988. And we have a lot of abandoned buildings, fewer now, but we've had a lot since the 80s, right? And I've always dreamed of like taking these abandoned, neglected buildings and like doing an adaptive reuse, like, giving it the love and attention that they need, because there's a lot of like cool architecture that's just crumbling in Philadelphia. So I co-own a web development agency with my wife, Mia. That's how Cami and I know each other from the WordPress community. I want to get to tell our Meetcute story because Mika got to tell hers. So I want a chance to tell mine.
We will.
This is where I'm like, what was I saying? So, me and I, we co-own a web development agency, and we were renting a place in Northern Liberties, which is another up and coming neighborhood. Was up and coming. I think it's now up and went neighborhood in Philadelphia. And our rent was just increasing every year. And, I'm just looking around at rents in other neighborhoods. I'm like, wow, we could get more space for like a lot less. And that turned into, let's buy a building. And me and my wife, she's much more financially conservative, risk averse. There's the word, risk averse. And she wanted, a nice little building, move-in ready, maybe an apartment up top. We could be landlords. That would be cute. And I absolutely fell in love with 2 crumbling, dilapidated, completely abandoned, a blight on the on the block buildings that were 2 side-by-side buildings with 4 apartments, 2 apartments each and a storefront. So 6 units total. And I was like, I want these. These are the ones that I want. And I immediately called my friend who's an architect. And I'm like, get me in to see these buildings. So, we're walking around. There's water dripping. Like there's like water damage from the roof, giant gaping hole in the roof going through all floors into the basement. There was like a dead mouse on the floor in like one of the top floors of the buildings. And it was dangerous. Like it was a very dangerous, uninhabitable situation. And I didn't care. I wanted those buildings. Those are the buildings that I wanted. I wanted those buildings, and I wanted to do a LEED platinum rehab. And like, no one could stop me. It's like, that's what I wanted to do. And so
Can you just
Sure.
real quickly, can you tell our listeners what a LEED platinum renovation is?
Oh, sure. LEED certification is a certification system for sustainable building. If anyone is familiar with B Corp certification, it's like you have to, accumulate certain numbers of points, and you have a certain level of like proving that you're a sustainable business. It's the same thing for LEED buildings. It's like it's a point system, and you can do like LEED certified, silver, gold, platinum. Platinum was like A+. I wanted an A+. And
thank you. That's exactly what I wanted you to say.
So this was right after this 2009, 2010, after the real estate market just collapsed, and the whole it was like a recession, like all those terrible loans that was busted. It's like, no big bank was going to fund a development project. Like it was just off the table. So I started going to banks, and then I started learning what the banks wanted. They wanted 3 years tax returns for us and for the business, and they wanted this and that. So I had it all on a memory stick. I just went to every commercial small-sized bank that would listen to me. I had that memory stick. I had everything ready to go. And I learned, you have to make a business plan, like say how much rent you'd be able to get for all the buildings. You have to have a narrative about your project and what you want to do. And I was just tenacious, and I finally found a community bank that's just down the street. That would be the primary lender. And then a program with the city called PIDC, Philadelphia something Development Corporation. And they're like a nonprofit, or I don't know, they're a city organization that funds projects just like this, real estate projects for small businesses. And they would be the subordinate lender with a really low rate. So I got that together. I got the funding, but then me and I also had to put our own money in. So drained my Roth IRA, not something I would ever recommend anyone ever do. But only the, part that I contributed. So it was okay to you can take money out of a Roth IRA, penalty free. Took all our savings, took out a home equity line of credit on our house. We also had 2 personal lines of credit, $15,000 each, at our credit union. And took all this money and okay, here we go. And that was cool. It was such a big project. I will never do LEED ever again, because there are other ways to build sustainably without having it to be LEED. And like with any project, scope creep comes in, things spiral out of control. Like this wall behind me had to be torn down and rebuilt. And by the time we were done, there was like maybe one wall that was still like structurally sound, like maybe the front and the back. And it just spiraled out of control. And like towards the end, it didn't look like we were going to make platinum. It's like we're just out of money. And so as it took about a year, it took a year. Yeah. A year and a month. So towards the end, we maxed out credit cards. I borrowed $30,000 from my brother. And so it was a lot of money that we did not have, but we just scraped for every last point and we made it. We made it to LEED Platinum.
Nice.
Yeah. But then, we had, and I am so debt adverse. Like I've never like taken out this much personal debt in my life. But I was aggressive about paying it back. And so for like 10 years, we like didn't go on vacations. We didn't like buy anything huge, or we did like affordable vacations, like things you could drive to or something, or pulling together with friends, we just didn't, we let our own house just fall into neglect and disrepair, because we just couldn't afford to fix anything. But it took 10 years, but I paid all back.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I remember the day.
I remember the day too.
I remember
said it
the
on
day.
the book club.
Yeah. So I have a question. Did your love of photographing and exploring dilapidated buildings come before you bought the 2 dilapidated buildings? Like, were you already obsessed with photographing and checking out
Cami stole my
spaces?
question.
Haha. Too slow.
That is a good question.
Which order? How did that happen?
The buildings came first. Because I was too scared to go inside buildings by myself. And so I would actually like ride my bike around the city or, drive around, stop the car and take pictures of the outside. And I remember I had a Tumblr blog of just outsides of buildings. Then I started to kind of like creep inside a little bit. And then I found this organization on Meetup called GLUE, Gay and Lesbian Urban Explorers. And I timidly went to my first group and the first meetup and just loved it. Within like months, I was co-running the group. Like it was, that's how I got into the buildings and into the hobby of, abandoned photography.
Abandoned photography, is that what it's called?
Urban exploration. Yeah.
Yeah. And on Instagram, I love your username. It is ruin porn.
Yes.
So all the ruin you can stomach. It's and some really amazing work there.
Thank you.
What apart from just your love of Philadelphia, like what inspires you to capture the modern day ruin of an urban environment? I think as humans, we're so often like appreciate the ancient history and visit the Parthenon and the pyramids or whatever. But like, this is really actively decaying metropolitan area buildings that you're exploring. Just talk a little bit more about that inspiration and why you do that.
I think probably my primary motivation is to capture these spaces before they're gone forever. There's so many amazing buildings in Philadelphia that are just not here anymore, but I was able to photograph them before they're gone. There was a high school in North Philly called Edison High that looked like a castle. It had like gargoyles and everything. And I've been to that site maybe 3 times, but then we heard that it was going to be demolished. And so we snuck past security guards to get one last time in there. And now it's a strip mall. It's sad.
Huh.
That's sad.
Yeah.
So it's not like these buildings are being renovated and kept to their original like architecture. They're just being like raised in a strip mall or something gross is going in. So that's probably my primary motivation. Others are just documenting decay and how quickly it happens. Like the Tasty Cake Factory. Tasty Cake Factory in Philadelphia moved from North Philly to the Navy Yard. And within a year or maybe a little longer, it was like just the crumbling, peeling, like, thing that you see like in pictures.
Yeah.
So just like documenting how quickly things go downhill and decay. And then number 3, aesthetically, I think I just think it's really interesting to look at.
Yeah, it has a very your style has a very kind of dystopian feel to it, but like in a really compelling way, like definitely zombie apocalypse dystopian video game feel to it, which is amazing. I really appreciate your work. It's excellent.
Well, let me tell you, if one of those like mushroom zombies hopped out of me, I would never go into an abandoned building ever again.
No.
Man,
the mushroom zombies are the best and worst thing to happen to my zombie watching. I'm just like, ugh.
They're like, how can they make zombies more creepy? Oh, I've got it. How about the fungi?
Because I'm like, that could happen, right, Mia? My wife. I'm like, wait, that could happen.
Like that's way more reasonable to me than the other presentations of why the zombie apocalypse starts.
It's like not 100% supernatural. It's
right.
Yeah, it could happen. Nature reassures me that it won't happen. That it's actually not something that could happen.
Okay.
All right.
Also,
Mia's very smart, so I'm going to believe her.
Okay.
So doing this building project was like my chance to like preserve history.
Yeah.
Yep.
And like, I've also thought, okay, those 10 years that I was paying back all that debt, if I put that in a Roth IRA at a, compound interest of 8% a year, blah, 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 I would probably be making more money than the landlord business, which is still good, but at the end, I'm like, I'm going to look at the back of my end of my life, look back and not say like, oh, I could have gotten more interest over those 10 years. I'm going to look back and say, I turned a abandoned building into a LEED platinum building that like is good for the neighborhood.
2 side-by-side buildings.
2 side-by-side.
All right.
And I get to
Give
be
yourself credit.
Yeah, I get to be a good landlord too, like a caring, attentive, like not, I don't raise the rent, like that kind of thing. Like I get to be like, somebody who contributes to their community.
You get to be a decent, kind human individual, which is something that I have seen from you in all, I was going to say corners, but there's a limited number of corners. You just have so many facets of your life. Do you want to talk about the garden?
Oh, the garden. We live next door to a community garden. It surrounds 2 sides of our house. And when we bought our house in 99, I joined the garden. No, I had joined the garden before we moved in. And I love urban gardening. I love gardening. I love growing garlic. I love the whole thing. And so, the woman who was formerly in charge of the garden, she moved to Texas. So of course I became in charge of the garden. So I manage the garden. I do the website. I manage the waiting list. I interface with the Neighborhood Gardens Trust, which is the Philadelphia organization that holds title to several community gardens. It keeps them safe, insured, and they're kind of like an umbrella organization for all of us. I deal with garden drama. I have to go to like citywide garden meetings.
The
so much garden drama.
Yeah.
I have to go to citywide garden meetings where like, I feel like a little kid in class and I want to just like leave. Because gardeners are, and myself included, we're a wacky bunch of folks.
Sure. Yeah.
Lots of very strong personalities.
So I feel some similarity with the, you seem to either start or adopt a lot of things.
Yes.
I am not I start a lot of things, but I'm not terribly successful with a lot of things. You are achieving success. Like how do you do that? Is it just focus? Is it passion? Like, is it, you've got a great way of doing things? Like, I'm just really curious, like when something catches your creativity, like what happens next?
I think, well, number one, I do say no to things. Cami knows I say no to things.
It's so inspiring. It's really awesome when she says no, even when you're the person she's saying no to.
Right? No, I'm not.
You go.
Ever working on WordCamp US again. But I think the fact that I say no The fact that I'm not afraid to like be bad at something, like, I like doing things because they're fun. Like I did not get into urbex and photography to be the best or even good at it, really. I just did it for fun. And oh, look, I'm decent at it too. That's a good, like, I don't know, side effect. But I don't like feel like I need to be the best. I can just purely do something because I'm having fun at it. And also I'm fine with things like having a peak and then, ending. Like I haven't done a lot of photography in the last few years because I was concentrating more on the business. And it's hard to like spread yourself thin and do all the things, right?
Yep.
I still want a life and like hang out with my wife and kid and do fun things, and see friends and that kind of thing. So I think that's something I've learned later in life, to say no to things. And then also stop being in charge of stuff. Stop like, taking leadership roles and things just because like I'm super into it at the moment.
Right. Yeah. It's super, I mean, it's just like super interesting that like so much of what I explored and what you did with the buildings is really imbued with nostalgia and love of the history of a place. And yet you also have this ability to just be like, no, I'm done with
I'm
that.
done. Yeah.
Not going to do that anymore.
Right.
So that's just amazing. Where does music fall into that realm?
Oh gosh. I love
Someone
music.
did research.
I love music so much. My mom played piano growing up and was always very encouraging of like musical stuff. She tells the story over and over and over again. She's from the Philippines and she wanted to be a concert pianist. And her dad said, "What are you going to do with that?" And made her go into like science, like to like she has a master's in microbiology. But I think because of that, she always supported, me and my brothers like in creative interests, which I'm very, very thankful for and very privileged to have that support. So I played drums from 6th grade all the way till right now. And I was like band nerd. I was in marching band, concert band, jazz band, pit orchestra, county band. I even did band for a little bit in college, thinking it was going to be like better, but no, it was still like band dork nerds. And then I've been in bands. I haven't played lately with bands, but like I was in bands from like high school, like through college, all the way through. I don't know, maybe like 5 years, like 5 years ago. And before, we had a band that played like once a year at this cover band show. That was really fun. It was like the same group of folks. And, I'll be happy to play with anyone who like wants to play if we like rent a place at Wear Camp US. But yeah, so I love music. I love going to shows. I like live music is my absolute live music at a small venue is my favorite thing to do in life.
And so studio, not super appealing. You'd rather be doing live.
You mean going to shows, like attending?
Well, I know. I mean, when you're playing, like some people are like, I love being a studio musician, and other people are like, I love the live venue, and that's really where I get my energy. It strikes me that you're more the live.
I think it's because the band's never made it into a studio that I've been in. Maybe once or twice.
Walked by a studio? Yeah.
Once or twice. I'm on one CD of this band that I was in with my friend who died. But other than that, like, no, I just haven't spent a lot of time. I've never been in like serious bands. Yep.
Got it.
From this particular place, we could go about 100 directions with you.
That's kind of me. I'm 100 directions. I've got like
it is the star, right?
Yeah.
What do you want to talk about? Do you want to talk about LezWatch? Do you want to tell our Meetcute story? Do you want to talk about amazing dairy-free cheeses? What do you like? Do you want to talk about food? What do you want to talk about, Tracy? What feels? Otherwise, I'm going to ask you about being an extrovert. So.
Oh. I love being an extrovert.
Do you want me to ask? I do. I was warning Rick. I was like, I need to make sure you're aware. She is my most extroverted friend.
As you can tell, I really brought the energy level for the extrovert stuff like I usually do.
Well, I'm very attracted to introverts. My wife's an introvert. I just like it. I see introverts and I want to get to know them. Like I want to crack your shell,
But you never try to make us do anything.
Not in a way that's like invasive. Like
you're like, you're gonna love me and you're gonna love spending time with me, and I'm gonna respect all of your boundaries. Kind of.
Yes.
Talk to me about being an extrovert in a world full of introverts, because I happen to know that you have a lot of introverts in your life.
I do. My kid is more like me though.
Yeah.
So Mia is actually she's the minority in our house.
Lance Saver. Hello, Mia.
Yeah, she's, and she's also the triangle. Let's say triangle brain versus star brain. That's a thing. Okay, so my kid has ADHD, and his pediatrician explained it like this. You tell a person with a triangle brain, oh, can you go upstairs and get my keys and bring it down to me? So they go upstairs, they get the keys, and they bring it down. Mm-hmm. You ask a star brain person, like, oh, can you go upstairs, please get my keys? They go upstairs, see this thing. This leads to another thing, which leads to like, oh, remembering this thing and taking it out of the box and like, then over here, then you finally wander right back down. You're like, where are my keys? Like, oh, I forgot. Mm-hmm. So Mia is a triangle in a house full of stars.
That's how I surf the web, is pretty much like I forgot what I was even looking for hours later. Yeah.
There are no triangles in our home. So
no, I don't think so.
It's
not a single triangle. So like, Mia has all the executive functioning for house. But I don't know. I do have a lot of introverts in my life, but I don't know, but I guess I bop around, right? Like at a word camp or something, I'll spend times with like multiple groups of people.
Yeah. How do you sustain
and
that level of
not force people out, to go do something, of course.
Yep.
How do you sustain that level of, because it's not just emotional energy, you have like boundless physical energy. How do you sustain that level of energy? Because you are always doing something.
I just get energized by doing stuff. Like if I'm stuck in the house for even a day, I get like antsy and kind of like not like depressed. Like it's like, oh, like I'm in the house because I'm not feeling well or something. I associate like staying at home with like being sick. So I, when I'm at a word camp or something and things just keep going, oh, these people are doing karaoke. Now let's go do this thing. I just have the ability to just keep going and going and going because I get so energized from doing stuff. And then my wife, on the other hand, she needs quiet alone time to recharge her batteries.
Yeah.
And it's the opposite.
Yeah. Very, very familiar with needing the quiet alone time. That's why Cami and I don't even record in the same spot. We drain one another's introvert batteries. Okay, we've teased it enough. I want to hear the Meetcute story. Let's hear it. Okay,
well, I've thought about this after watching Mika's. So Cami and I are members of the WordPress community, and I was on the community team for a long time. I've been on several different contributor teams for years and years and years. And Cami works for Automatic, also formerly part of community. And so we were on a Zoom for the probably millionth useless Zoom meeting about the code of conduct, which, never like, I don't even know if it's written to this day. Maybe it is, I'm not sure.
In some iteration.
Right. So, I'm on the Zoom meeting, you have all the grid of people, and then up popped Cami, and it was like immediate. Like I thought she was cute. Like immediately, just like she got on. She's kind of moody, broody looking. She like dark hair. I mean, you might have glasses on, like tattoos. I was like, who's that? And we hadn't met, and we didn't talk to each other or anything at all. No talking because like someone who was doing all the talking. And someone who shall not be named is doing all the talking. And so it's not like we interacted or anything, but I was like, who's that? They have a cool name, you know, like, and then in San Francisco, that same San Francisco Mika mentioned, I think it was that San Francisco.
It was the same.
Okay. I went on a coffee run with Cami and we shall not mention person and somebody else. And she was just in a bad, I could tell she was in a bad place, just like not, you know, like,
I was not in a good place. Yeah.
No, just like, but like, that doesn't like deter me. You know, I mean, I still want to get to know you. Like, it was just like,
I felt like you took my mood as an additional challenge. You were like, no,
right.
She will be
like,
my friend.
She's cool. She will be my friend. So like, you know, I don't think we didn't interact much, even though we were physically in the same place. We didn't interact much. I could tell that you were like in a bad mood. So I just like, you know, didn't like say much. And then years later, I don't know how many years later, we had work camp Philly. Then Cami was a community person who was sent to come to Philly to hang. And you were a completely different person. You were like super friendly,
unsupervised. Yeah.
Yeah. You were like Cami, the Cami we all know, and just like had a blast. And that was it. The end.
I am
friends.
Yeah. Like same thing with you and with Mika. I was like, they're much too cool to be friends with me. Just bide my time. And eventually, but just that trip to Philadelphia, which eventually did lead to the first Word Camp US being held in Philadelphia. I was one of the best. It was definitely one of the best work trips I've ever had. That was so engaging and fun. And I got to sit and work the registration desk with Tracy, with Mia, also with their kid. I got to run around the event. I got to learn, like, when you go to Philadelphia from the West Coast, you're like, oh my God, there's so much history. And Tracy just had all of this, not like stodgy knowledge, but just all of this like fun, engaging knowledge. And it was, yeah. And then I didn't want to leave. But I left Tracy. But I need to go back, and I will soon.
Yes,
yeah.
To just one quick thing, and then I really want to get back to Philly.
No, you don't. You don't even like Philly.
It's fine. I have not yet been won over by Philly. I am looking forward to that happening. People won't be able to see this on the podcast, but I thought it was so amazing that when you started talking about meeting Cami, you like did one of her mannerisms by putting your like hand to your chin. I was like, oh, that's exactly what Cami looks like on Zoom calls all the time. So that was funny. But I like Federal Donuts. I love that. Yeah, I mean that's an easy win.
We have the best food.
They have really amazing food. There's a few places I want to take you in Philly next time.
Yeah. Well, and talk about that. Like you clearly love this city.
I do.
You've spent so much time there and been, you know, and brought people to the city to show it off. Like this is your platform to compose your love letter to Philly. Talk to us about why you love the city so much.
Philadelphia is the greatest city in the world. We are, back in the 80s and maybe early 90s, we had a chip on our shoulder because everybody ignored us. It was always New York, DC, New York, DC. And then something flipped where it was like, oh no, don't talk about us because we want to keep this to ourselves. You know, we are a extremely diverse city. Like, we are super diverse. We have had some of those progressive LGBT laws in the country. So you have like every kind of person in this city doing their thing. It's still relatively affordable compared to like New York, San Francisco, Boston, whatever. You can still like make your way here doing whatever it is. You have an idea for a nonprofit. You have an idea for a business. You want to, you know, be a musician. You want to be an artist. There's still a path to do that here in Philly. Whereas just like, you know, it's cost prohibitive in other cities, right? we tolerate each other, even if we don't like each other, right? There are still some Philadelphians that are going to like throw their bodies in front of the Columbus statue at this one park, and they are not going to let it go. There are just some Philadelphians that will not let go of Columbus. But Columbus Day, but Indigenous Peoples Day is like an official holiday in Philadelphia. So so it's a very progressive city, even though you have some people that are still like stuck in their old ways, but we still tolerate each other. We, there's like our motto, like at the last Super Bowl was like, no one likes us, we don't care. And that's it. It's like Philly against the world. It's like we were voted like the rudest city in the country. And I'm like, we're not rude. We are sincere. We are sincere people. We can be the friendliest, most helpful, like friendly people in the world, unless you don't deserve it, unless you don't deserve our friendship. Right.
Sure.
But we're not going to be fake to your face. And, and if you're going to bring up throwing snowballs at Santa, who probably deserved it.
Well, and that is, I think that is, I mean, it's an East Coast-ish thing, but like, that's one of the things about Portland that is so polar opposite of that. Like we are the global capital of passive aggressive behavior, and we don't say anything straight to anyone. We always find another way to be snarky about it. So like I always love it when I get the chance to interact with people from back east, because it's such a refreshing way to communicate directly with people, even if it may seem rude to other people. What about, like, you mentioned food? Obviously, you're part of the music scene. And especially given recent events, my exposure to Philadelphia has largely been through sports. Yes. Is that part of every Philadelphian's life? Is that segmented? Like talk a little bit about that and the Philadelphia culture.
Absolutely. There have been a lot of like TikToks or whatever, like, because we went to the Super Bowl. And for the weeks leading up to this, from the 2 weeks or however long it was, from like knowing we were going to the actual Super Bowl, there are all these like little memes coming out how saying "Go Birds" is like "Hello,
Go Birds,
Philadelphia," and it's exactly how it is. You're at the supermarket, Go Birds. You're walking down the street, Go Birds. Like it's just, even if you're not into football, you still want Philly to win. You're still into Philadelphia. I listened to the Pants podcast, which is Leisha Haley and Kate Menig from the L Word, and Kate Menig's from Philadelphia, and she was saying how she's excited for the Super Bowl. And Leisha Haley's like, "What are you talking about? You don't like football. You don't even know like you're not." But she's like, "No, but I love Philadelphia," and she just couldn't understand how if you're not into football, why would you care about the Super Bowl? It's like, because you care about Philadelphia. And 5 years ago when we did win the Super Bowl, oh my gosh, Philadelphia was like high for like a month. Everybody's just so, no matter what your background, everybody was so friendly to each other. Everyone was just like kind and so happy. And, it's really annoying because they're like, oh, Philly's going to burn itself down. It's like, no, we don't burn ourselves down. Maybe a car gets flipped, but it's usually like by by somebody from the suburbs. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like coming into Philly, but we don't destroy our city. It's like, I went to the parade, the Super Bowl parade when we did win, and it was just like a sea of like joyous, happy people, drunk and, obnoxious.
Sure.
Some,
sure.
But we don't burn our city down. That people love to like that narrative.
Well,
yes,
and
they really love to talk about the destruction and uncivility that Philadelphia brings, and gritty is just so negative and contrary. I'm like, gritty is adorable and sweet.
Gritty
what are we
is
about?
A perfect representation of Philadelphia. Perfect representation. Not only in gritty themselves. I don't know if gritty's a they them or he or whatever, but
let's go with they them until we know otherwise.
Yeah. Like, gritty is like, you're like, what the heck is that? But when gritty first happened, Philadelphians were like, oh, fucked up again, like, oh, Philly, we never get it right, whatever, until it started to get on like the New York talk shows. We're like, oh, what's this gritty? Then we were like, we'll defriend gritty with we'll throw ourselves in front of a bus for gritty. So like that's Philadelphia's like that until when the rest of the country starts to criticize us, then we like fiercely protect whatever it is.
It's like you're all
dissing a minute ago.
You're all siblings.
Right.
You can make fun of one another. You can hate on one another. You can do whatever you want to, but someone outside of Philadelphia says shit. And it gets shut down.
Yep, exactly.
Philadelphia is my second favorite city in the United States.
Oh, nice.
I love Philadelphia so much.
It's the best.
Yeah.
I don't even know what my second favorite city is. Maybe Chicago. I don't know, but I know I should spend more time in Philly, and we will figure out a way to make that happen. I think, just touching on the prior conversation, I think the other thing that is compelling about Philadelphia from a sports perspective is you have all the teams. Like there is always a sporting event of some kind going on in Philadelphia, regardless of what time of year you're in the city. And
you've got
I think
basketball and football, and you've got hockey. Do you have soccer?
The Union. Three of our teams, the Union, the Phillies, and the Eagles, all made it to the final whatever and lost. I think that's a new record.
Wow.
Yeah. Go Philly.
Go Philly.
Go Philly.
Yeah.
Cami, we're getting close to time. Was there anything else?
There is something that's super important that I know you wanted to talk about. Rick, no, not Tracy. There's probably plenty of stuff that you'd like to talk about, but Rick would like to know more about that jawn.
What?
Explain.
What's that jawn?
Explain jawn.
It means thing. It means.
I told him.
Word for thing.
He doesn't accept that.
Go birds is hello and jawn is thing.
Right.
That's how it works. Okay, cool. I got it. I feel comfortable now.
Better?
Fine with.
So can we go back now?
Well, no, just one more Philly question I have. What was the name of that? What was the name of that coffee place that we went to? That was kind
Elixir?
of by a.
Yes, it was Elixir.
Okay, cool.
It's good.
Thank you.
Tracy and I had a very important business meeting. That's not even a joke. Tracy and I had a very important business meeting, and Rick was with me in Philly, and we abandoned him at the Elixir coffee shop because great coffee, internet connection.
Nice.
And then we went and did our badass business lady stuff. And then we ate really great food. All right, lightning round.
Oh, all right, here we go.
Are we ready for the lightning round? I'm super excited.
And if you have a better name for the lightning round,
yes,
Tracy,
we're accepting suggestions.
We're all.
I like it.
All right. I'm going to ask you 5 questions. You don't have to gush them out, but don't spend too long thinking about it. I already know some of your answers, but I'm excited to hear you say them. What is your favorite but least useful hobby or topic of interest?
A favorite but least useful?
Yeah, something that you just absolutely love, but it's of no use.
Oh, I don't have enough lightning thoughts to
That's the hardest one.
Oh gosh, I have so many hobbies. I'm like, oh, what's the least interesting one? Did I just trigger Alexa? What happened?
I think you did.
So.
Somebody did.
Oh, least interesting. Gosh. Okay, pass. I'll have to come back.
Pass.
Okay,
All right.
Yeah.
Pass. Cool.
Would you like to survive the zombie apocalypse?
No, I want to die immediately. I want to die immediately. I want to overdose immediately and die.
You know you're friends with Tracy when she informs you that if you are to come across her in the zombie apocalypse, you have to dispatch her immediately.
Kill me.
Okay.
Done.
Question number 3. What is the last food that you photographed?
Probably bread. I've been really into making bread lately. And so my baguettes, I think that's what I photographed last.
I am both sad and glad that we didn't get into the bread making because Rick will have to learn how to make gluten-free bread if he wants to achieve his goal of bread making.
Oh, I am wrong. It's pizza.
Oh,
and I posted the pizza that I posted to Slack.
I thought it might have been an egg, but yeah.
No, it's pizza.
I believe you that it was pizza.
Mm-hmm.
Tracy and I just send each other photographs of eggs a lot. That's a normal thing that people do, right?
I'm the guy who wants to see your food porn.
Yes.
Like, why do people photograph their food? I'm like, for me, because I want to see it. I love it.
I was never a photographing my food person until Tracy and I became friends. And then I was like, Tracy, let me show you every food I've ever made.
I want to see it. I don't want to just hear about it. I actually want to see it.
Yeah. All right. What is the best season and the worst season?
Best season, spring. Worst season is winter. Sucks.
Okay.
And magnets or stickers?
Oh, gosh. That's a tough one. Oh, man. A sticker. I like sticking things on stickers, but I like the flexibility of magnets. Stickers.
Okay.
Okay.
Do you want to revisit the favorite but not useful hobby? You can just say pass.
What's a thing I do that's actually not useful or interesting? I don't know. I mean, I watch a lot of TV. That's
useful for the LezWatch.
That is useful for things. Gosh, do you know, Cami? What's it useful?
No, I didn't know the answer to that one. I was like, I can think of a lot of hobbies that you have that are like super useful, and they would be especially useful if you wanted to survive the zombie apocalypse. Like your gardening and your cooking and all of those things, you'd make a great member of a zombie apocalypse.
Well, too bad that's not going to happen.
I respect you too much to put you through that. All right, Tracy, it has been absolutely lovely to talk to you, and
this is great.
We'd like to talk to you again sometime if that's okay with you, because there's like a full page list of topics that we didn't.
Wow. Well, thank
cover.
you so much for having me. I didn't get to clear up that I did not ever say that LezWatch was biphobic.
Oh, say it. Let's talk about that, because that came up in our first episode.
Yeah.
Mika and I were talking about LezWatchTV, and Mika mentioned that Tracy said it was biphobic, and then I got all like, bi power, don't be negative. That's not what Tracy said. Tracy, will you please issue a correction on this episode?
Sure. I never said that LezWatch was biphobic. I said that it was monosexual, which is more like ignorant. But because of our gay bias, at the time was just Mika and I like running the site. Because of our gay bias, the language used on the site was very monosexual. So like instead of bury your queers, it was bury your gays, or big gay wedding, or using the words lesbian and gay instead of more inclusive language, which sometimes it's punchier to say something's gay. You know what I mean? Like in language, but really if you're doing a website that is a database of all queer, queer female, non-binary, trans characters, it has to be inclusive. So we changed everything from like either lesbian or gay to queer or LGBT or, whatever it may be. And so that's what it was. We would never like excluded by people on purpose. Like,
right. You were not intentionally exclusionary. And when you realized that you were being exclusionary, you guys fixed it.
And I think we are kind of with the times, right? I think it was like an awareness of like, the importance of language when including the whole queer community. Yeah. So I think we kind of evolved with the way, mainstream like queer culture evolved. Because biphobic lesbians are in the same bucket as TERFs for me. It's something that I absolutely do not tolerate and like really, like vehemently against. So never intentionally biphobic, but more by ignorance. With gay bias.
And now you've taken it upon yourselves to make it better for everyone. All right. With these last moments, if someone were looking for you on the internet and wanted to follow along with this Tracy story, where would they find you? What's the best place for them to find you? I have a website. It's thetracyl.com.
Awesome. TRACY, no E, no IE, no I, no TRACY. Okay. And you can get all my social things from there. Yeah. Awesome. All right, Rick, do a clever sign out or something.
Great. Tracy, already looking forward to having you back. Thank you so much for taking the time, for educating us on Philly, for reveling in the abject beauty of dilapidated metropolitan areas. Like, all of that stuff was great. I really appreciate it. It's just been an absolute joy to spend some time with you and Philly. So with that in mind, we'll let Tracy go back to something more interesting than talking to mildly interesting people, and we will talk to you all next time.
Go birds.
I think this was pretty interesting, and thank you for having me.
Yay! Love to you.